Epicurus. Epicurus. Wait, who's that guy? So maybe you've heard or somewhat familiar with the name, or maybe in your reading of older authors or reformers, you've encountered the notion of Epicureanism. But essentially, what is it? It's building your life in such a way that you maximize your attempts to avoid pain and enjoy pleasure. It has some essence or semblance of theological thought in that, and you would see this if you read through book one of Calvin, because he addresses Epicureanism early on. But essentially, in terms of a theological perspective, it does have a view of God, but it's a depersonalized, far off, almost what you would call a first mover kind of God who puts the world in motion and essentially implants in man to seek ease and comfort and to avoid pain. Now, naturally speaking, we wouldn't, as Christians, disagree with Epicurus in the sense of, yes, biologically, everybody, not just human beings, want to seek comfort, satisfaction, food, pleasure, and they want to avoid pain. However, theologically speaking, that's actually not our best road to happiness or even the enjoyment of pleasure when we get it, and the toleration and suffering under pain when it inevitably comes into anybody's life. Because with Epicureanism, essentially, and Calvin would say this, what good does it do with merely putting off a God who is there, but who has nothing to do with you? You might as well just be an atheist. You might as well have no theology of God whatsoever, as if the goal is just to put him there as a placeholder to prop up your belief system and how you're going about your life. So in terms of how we make sense of Epicureanism, I mean, it's no stranger in terms of how it's utilized today. People might not use the language of Epicurus, but they nonetheless invoke the notion in terms of how they live. You hear it in Dave Matthews' lyrics. You see it in television and programming. This sense of let's eat, drink, and be merry, which was an old thought on its own. For tomorrow we die. That's Epicureanism in a nutshell. Although they want to put off the notion of death and having to do with their creator for as long as they can. It's as though they live life in terms of the positive side, or the silver lining of the Johnny Cash song, "You can run on for a long time." And we say, oh, whoa, maybe I need to reckon with this God before whom I live and move and have my being. Epicureanism hears you can run on for a long time and says, yeah, that's right, I can run on for a long time, and I'm going to do just that. All right, thanks for listening. I hope this was beneficial at looking at Epicurus, the pre-Christian, died in, I believe, 270 BC, philosopher who espoused essentially a doctrine of avoidance of pain, seeking pleasure and tranquility and harmony. All right, thanks for listening.